For me, it is about the law and people.
That is not a legal defense, let me tell you.
And how people can resolve and better themselves.
Justice with passion.
I knew I was going to go into law because I always defended everybody. I was always the one who found a solution and tried to resolve the problem by having people talk to each other.
Justice with truth.
So I'm giving you one more chance to tell me the truth.
This is Justice for All with Judge Cristina Perez. Claire Murdoch is suing her son, Damian Murdoch, in the amount of $360. Ms. Murdoch claims her son improperly laid to rest the dog she had given him, which violated their agreement. Mr. Murdoch claims his mom gave him the dog with the intent of him being the new owner, so he can lay the dog to rest however he wants.
All rise. Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Cristina Perez presiding. Please be seated. All parties have been sworn in, Your Honor.
Thank you, Renard. Mrs. Murdoch,
Your Honor.
you are here today suing your son
Correct.
for $360.
Correct.
Okay, why is that?
Last fall, my husband, Grant, of 35 years, passed away.
Sorry to hear.
And Grant and I were just lovers the whole time we were married. And it was a wonderful, wonderful relationship. And we purchased a dog, a Belgian Tervuren, that Grant absolutely loved and adored. And he named him Murphy. And it was like a love story between the two of them. Murphy was with him all the time, and he just adored this dog. And he promised me when we found out that he was ill, that Grant was ill, that Murphy would be cremated and his ashes would be placed on top of Grant's grave when the dog passed away, not prior, just not doing it intentionally.
Okay, so he asked you to do that?
Yes, he asked me to promise to do that. I had originally wanted our organs to be donated because I felt it was a very worthy cause to do that. He did not want to do that. He wanted to be buried. He did not want his organs donated, and he wanted the dog cremated, and he made me promise that I would do that.
Okay.
And I said that I would. After he passed away, the pain was so intense, Your Honor. I had never experienced anything like it before, and I felt that I was not physically, emotionally able to deal with the dog that constantly reminded me of my husband. And so I asked our son Damian to please take the dog, and because he had a lovely family, a wife and 2 children, and the dog would have much joy there versus much sorrow with me.
Okay.
And so...
And you're okay with that, Damian, taking on your dad's dog?
Oh, sure, yeah. You know, the kids needed somebody to attach to while I was spending multiple hours away from home at work. You know,
And how old are your children?
Kevin is 7 and Anna is 5.
Okay, and does your wife work also?
She does, yes.
Okay. So
I also, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, yeah.
I was just going to say, I also stipulated at the time when I asked Damian to take the dog, that the dog must be cremated when he passes, and the ashes must be put on his father's grave.
Okay, did she say that to you, Damian?
Yes, she did. It was not a pen and paper agreement, but we did speak on it.
Okay, and how did Murphy do at your home?
It was great. You know, for about 3 months, he was the best pet ever. We'd take him out to the backyard, we'd play, take him in the neighborhood, they'd play with the other kids. Joy and I would take turns walking him around the block, and everybody complimented on his coat and how great he was with the other people.
Then why are we here today, Mrs. Murdoch, suing your son for $360?
Aside from the financial hardship, I know that $360 doesn't sound like a lot of money, but I live on a fixed income. My husband and I were both retired, both living on Social Security and whatever we had put away. And I had already paid out the $360 for an urn and for the cremation of the dog and for the dog to be picked up. And the reason I had bought an urn was that predominantly most of the ashes were going to be placed on Grant's body in the cemetery.
So why did you already pay for the cremation? Wasn't that a bit premature?
Well, it had been a verbal agreement, and he understood what I wanted, so I thought...
Did you know your mom, Damien, spent this money on the future of Murphy, that she bought an urn and she paid for prepaid...
Absolutely not, no.
You had no idea?
No.
No idea. And when she told you, Damien, I need Murphy to be cremated because your dad wants him on his grave, you said it wasn't a written agreement, but you remember her telling you that?
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with the request, but a better opportunity came along.
Coming up on Justice for All.
And I donated his body to an animal cancer research facility.
See, and I don't understand, Your Honor, why the dog's organs could not have been donated, but the dog itself could have been returned then.
And later.
You didn't tell the hotel, you didn't tell Mrs. Wheeler or any of the staff that you had extra guests in your room?
I wasn't aware of any obligation to do so.
Closed captioning provided by... If you'll be in the Los Angeles area and want to bring your case to court, call 1-888-552-6878. You're watching Justice for All with Judge Cristina Perez. We're back with the case of Claire Murdoch, who is suing her son Damien Murdoch for breach of contract.
Okay, what happened to Murphy?
I saw that something was going on with him. You know, he was not running around as much as he was the past couple of weeks. So I decided to take him into the veterinarian's office, and a malignant tumor was found. The doctor presented me with a bill of upwards of $10,000, which I definitely don't readily have available. It was an option of either take him through the painful procedures and be out of money for quite a while, or mitigate the pain and put him down.
He never called me, Your Honor. He never called me and gave me any of this information.
Okay.
So I knew nothing about the extreme pain that the dog was in.
Why didn't you call your mom?
You know, I wanted to take extreme action, just go right ahead to the vet, see if I could nip it in the bud.
Did you not want to tell her because you thought she'd be hurt and devastated, another tragedy after your father passed away?
She's going through a lot. We all are.
Okay. So is that why you didn't want to tell her about Murphy?
Well, no.
I don't think he really even realized the pain that I was in, or am in. And he has never even once sat down and talked to me about it. And I felt such total disregard when he went ahead and did this for my financial situation and for my emotional situation. I don't think he even thought about it.
So you decided to put the dog down?
Right. We put him down, and, you know, it wasn't an easy decision. I definitely didn't want to put him down. Like I said, he was part of the family now. But after speaking with my wife and kids, we decided that was going to be the best option. So I went ahead and put him down, and I donated his body to an animal cancer research facility.
See, and I don't understand, Your Honor, why the dog's organs could not have been donated, but the dog itself could have been returned then, and I could have, since I had already paid for it.
I don't know, ma'am.
I don't know how they...
I don't have the answer to that. I think your son would have the answer, and, you know, in retrospect, he could have done a lot of things differently. But at the end of the day, Mrs. Murdoch, you did give the dog away to your son. As a child, I would have done so many things differently. Mr. Murdoch, your mother's suing you for $360 because she's on a fixed budget. Should you reimburse her for these expenses? That's up to you. If I were you, I would, because that's what I would do to help out my parents. But, you know, legally, unfortunately, Ms. Murdoch, I don't find a valid agreement that you two agreed to have this happen and that he would reimburse you for these fees. He didn't even know you had spent this money. So I cannot grant the claim reluctantly. Under the law, I will deny your claim. Having said that, Mr. Murdoch, if I were you, I'd figure out a way to make your mother happy. She needs you probably now more than ever. So you're going to have to figure that out. How are you going to have to incorporate it more into your life, okay? So based on the evidence, Mrs. Murdoch, I will have to deny your claim for $360 as I do not find a valid agreement between you and your son. Having said that, I hope that your son does the right thing, okay? Good luck.
Judge Perez has ruled in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff's claim has been denied.
I really heard what the judge had to say, and you and your family are much more important to me than $360.
You know, Mom, I'm sorry that I didn't talk to you about what was going on with Murphy before, and I love you. I'm going to get that $360 back to you.
Coming up on Justice for
You
All.
didn't tell the hotel, you didn't tell Mrs. Wheeler or any of the staff that you had extra guests in your room?
I wasn't aware of any obligation to do so.
Closed captioning provided by. You're watching Justice for All with Judge Cristina Perez. Carl Remington is suing Georgette Wheeler in the amount of $880. Mr. Remington claims Ms. Wheeler overcharged him for having visitors in his hotel room and says she's prejudiced against the homeless. Ms. Wheeler says the overages were based on the hotel's policy and claims Mr. Remington was charged after evidence showed that he secretly fed his guests and let them stay with him.
Mr. Remington, you are a retired vet, right?
Yes, Your Honor. I served in the first Iraq War.
Well, thank you for your
Currently,
service. I said thank you for your service. Currently, you are doing what?
Currently, I'm a traveling salesman. I sell custom frames and cutting mats. I sell these at swap meets that I go to once a month. I'm saying this because I'm telling you, I go to a lot of hotels, and I've never had any kind of a problem or any kind of an issue. I'm there on business. This most recent hotel, there's a gas station nearby. I went to the convenience store to buy things. There was a fellow who was panhandling outside. I don't like talking about it too much, but between my time in the military and what I do now, I had a rather difficult time. And I'm really good friends with this fella now. His name's Roger, and he served in the more recent war on terrorism in Iraq. And he's fallen on some hard times. He did panhandle at first, but then when I said no, sorry, I didn't know he was a vet then. But then he said, I'll work then. And he offered to clean my hotel room, so I didn't need that because that service is free. But I said yeah, because I identify with him.
Okay.
And he came back there, and then I got to know his wife and his children. And I told them they couldn't stay overnight. They never did. We did stay up late, but these are small children, and I have work. We're not partying or making noise or disturbing anyone.
So you just invited them to stay in your room while you were there, while you were working. How long? And Mrs. Wheeler, it's your hotel that we're talking about, right?
Correct, yes.
And how long did you stay in in Mrs. Wheeler's hotel?
My intention was to stay 14 days. I stayed 11.
11 days. And what type of room did he rent, Mrs. Wheeler?
He had a double occupancy room, which is allows 2 people, but it can be up to 4 people. He, in the end, had 6 people in the room without my knowledge.
So, but initially when he came to rent the room, you knew it was only him?
I knew it was only him, but he did have the opportunity to have a guest with him.
Okay. How often did this friend and his family come and stay with you?
I met Roger on the first day I was there, so he was there for most of the time, and as we became closer friends, they were there more frequently.
They were there every single day. I saw it on the security tapes.
Okay, every single day, from morning to night?
It was interspersed between, some days it was just the morning while he was out at work. Sometimes it was in the evening. 2 occasions, it was past midnight.
You didn't tell the hotel, you didn't tell Mrs. Wheeler or any of the staff that you had extra guests in your room?
I wasn't aware of any obligation to do so.
You don't think that there could be an issue with that?
I certainly could. I didn't consider them as occupants. I considered them as visitors. They didn't.
Okay, what did they do while they were visiting?
Well, they don't have a home. So I helped them with laundry, and they did sleep some of the time during the day because I have to kick them out at night. And I mean, they have small children. They can't be sleeping in these places.
I understand that. I understand that, Mr. Remington. We're not doubting that, but did they use the facilities? Did they use the pool? Did they take showers? Did they eat meals?
Very lavish continental breakfast.
They did, Your
Sorry,
Honor.
Your Honor.
Okay, and the continental breakfast is part of the...
It's included. It's one of the perks we have with the immense competition we have now with Airbnb, very rife. And we found that the week that Mr. Remington was staying with us, that we were actually running short on food. So the cook, Maria, had to... because what we do is we order food. We also allow for a bit extra, considering how many people have booked for the week. So we actually found that guests were complaining that there wasn't enough variety. So we did have to order more bacon and eggs.
Coming up.
Roger's children are 9, 6, and 4 years old. You read that children policy. Why is she charging me for the children then?
Closed captioning provided by. You're watching Justice for All with Judge Cristina Perez. We're back with the case of Carl Remington, who is suing Georgette Wheeler for $880.
Why are we here suing then Mrs. Wheeler for $880?
Well, I in fact did fulfill my contractual agreement and paid in cash, and I have a receipt that states that. But I also will tell you that...
Go ahead and give all your evidence
yes,
to Renard.
I would. Yes, and I also would tell you that make note on the receipt that it does say 4 occupants. I will get to that later. You'll want to make note of that.
Okay. But why are we suing for $880?
Because I am being singled out. My agreement was for me to stay there. She doesn't need...
For you to stay there?
Yes, overnight.
Not you and a family of 5?
That's correct.
Okay. So that was your agreement. She gave you a break and counted 3 more people.
That's not a break, Your Honor. That's actually...
She didn't charge you for them
she's
because you
singling
paid
me out and
for
charging me more than she would charge other people.
Okay.
I can
That's
prove
not
that.
true.
That's true.
That's not
Okay,
true. I have a
so
policy
you still
here.
haven't explained to me why you are suing for $880. Why is he suing you for $880, Mrs.
Because
Wheeler?
when I found out that he had smuggled people into the room and were using all the facilities, I charged him what is stipulated in our policy that after the double occupancy, there is a $20 surcharge for every person, every guest. There were 6 people.
6 total, and
There
double
was 6
occupancy,
total.
only 2 allowed to be in his room.
Correct, and so I charged him for the 4. So
Okay.
that's the $20 plus.
Okay. He paid the bill in full, though, right?
His
In cash.
portion, but not the people he was hiding.
So did you pay the $880 and you're asking for reimbursement? Is that what's happening?
She had my credit card, and I told her specific... Well, not her, because she
So
didn't
you
even...
charged his credit card,
Unauthorized.
the $880. I
Yes.
see what you're saying.
Unauthorized.
Okay.
And it's actually part of the policy. I don't know if you want to have a look at that.
Oh, yeah, I have that there.
We'll have a
Did you
look at
see
the
that
policy.
in the policy that if you had extra people, they have the right to charge you $20?
I'm telling you right now, she's picking on, she does not like these people because they're homeless. If that's not the case, then I will refer you to page 2 of that policy. On the page 2, you will see in bold print, it says children policy. Roger's children are 9, 6, and 4 years old. You read that children policy. Why is she charging me for the children then?
Children's policy, 12 and under are free of using existing bedding.
Right. At the
Rollaway
most,
fee
you should have
applies.
charged me for the adults. You know that you're trying to charge me for people you wouldn't even charge
He's got
other
a
people
point
for.
there. He's got a point there.
This man was purposefully taking advantage of my establishment, and I thought it was fair to charge him what I charged him.
Judge Perez's verdict when Justice for All returns. Promotional consideration provided by...
You wouldn't charge a child if they were a regular guest. So I'm not quite sure how you would charge him in this instance for the 2 extra children. So what I think is fair to do is that we will split the $880 down the middle, so $440. You will go ahead and reimburse Mr. Remington $440 because those are charges for the children you wouldn't have normally charged any other guest. That's my verdict. Good luck to you all.
Thank you.
Judge Perez has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant is ordered to pay $440.
I think it's really noble what you're trying to do, but at the end of the day, I'm running a hotel, not a shelter.
I know you're not a shelter. I'm trying to help out my friends. I didn't think I was hurting your business.
This has been a production of Entertainment Studios.